Welcome to the newest edition of Chatting with Chumbler on Denton Community Television. I'm Dr. Neil Chumbler, Dean of the College of Health and Public Service, or as we call it, HPS, at the University of North Texas. Today we're going to dive deep into an area of the college that just celebrated a milestone, the Department of Emergency Management and Disaster Science, or EMDS, whose Emergency Administration and Planning program just marked 35 years. EMDS is an area that is committed to promoting disaster resilience through research, education, and service. Today we're going to look at how they're accomplishing this goal and how what they're doing impacts you. As many of you may recall, in 2017, Hurricane Harvey slammed into Texas Gulf Coast, causing unprecedented flooding and major damage. The images are hard to forget. The death toll topped 80. The catastrophic rainfall and devastation put Hurricane Harvey in the record books, tied with Hurricane Katrina as the costliest tropical cyclone on record and inflicting $125 billion in damage. What you may not know is that according to FEMA, Texas leads the country as the state with the highest number of disaster declarations by far. Another startling statistic, the United States had the 3 costliest natural disasters in the world in 2018. Take a moment to think about that. Racking up a cost of $16.5 billion in damages, the devastating and deadly Camp Fire that ravaged California in November was the world's costliest natural disaster in 2018, according to a report issued by Munich Re, a reinsurance and risk assessment firm. In second and third place last year were Hurricanes Michael at an estimated $16 billion and Florence at an estimated $14 billion. Florence dumped heavy rain across the Carolinas in September, and Michael tore into Florida Panhandle in October. So as you might surmise, the demand for emergency managers and disaster scientists have never been greater. With all this in mind, I wanted to take the opportunity to sit down with our experts in the college and pick their brains on what all of this means and how it ties into what we're doing. Joining me today is Dr. Ronnie Shi, Assistant Professor in the Department of Emergency Management and Disaster Science. Welcome, Ronnie, and thank you for being on the show. First of all, tell me why you think there is an increased need for experts in the field.
Well, to be blunt, we're seeing more disasters nowadays, right? This is the product of climate change and a lot of unsafe development practices that have really taken place over decades. If you look at the number of billion-dollar disasters, 3 of the 5 costliest U.S. disasters have happened in 2017, right? You can probably name them: Hurricanes Harvey, Irma, and Maria. So we need to be more forward-thinking about how to avert these disasters before they happen. So this is where resilience comes in, and it's really a focus of our program and what we try and equip our students with. So resilience is more than a buzzword. It's a philosophy, an approach when it comes to emergency management. So we want communities to be able to better withstand the disasters that come their way, to bend rather than break, and to recover better in ways that mitigate or prevent future disasters from occurring. So there's a real need for experts who understand this concept of resilience and how to actually apply it in their communities.
Wonderful. How has the field of emergency management and disaster science changed in the time you've been involved with it?
Really 2 big changes. I've seen 2 big changes in my time. The first is increasing professionalization. Okay, so in the past, really firsthand experience as a first responder, be it police, fire, emergency medical services, that was really the backbone of training for a career in emergency management. But really in the past few decades, we've seen this move towards professionalization. So that doesn't cut it. This response-only framework doesn't cut it if we truly want to be resilient to future disasters. So we need people who are educated in disaster science. FEMA, for instance, and other federal agencies are looking at a culture of readiness, really promoting this. So we need to anticipate the threats before they happen. We need to rely on accurate assumptions of human behavior. We need to rely on evidence-based decision making. So all that requires disaster science education rather than just on-the-field training alone. So we're seeing a lot of growth in bachelor's degree programs and master's degree programs. So that's the first change. Secondarily, I would say just increasing diversity in terms of who we have coming through our doors to become emergency managers of the future. So we have more women, more minorities. And that's wonderful because our communities are increasingly diverse. We need a diverse set of emergency managers to understand and anticipate those needs.
Indeed. What do you think the future looks like for emergency management and disaster science?
I'd say the future is becoming more proactive rather than reactive. We're becoming more proactive as a field, thinking about emergency management not as this swooping in when something happens, that response only kind of framework, but really thinking about emergency management as risk governance. So how do we anticipate and mitigate the risks before they actually become disasters? So we're seeing this kind of manifest in a number of ways in our field. The first is continuity planning. So corporations are starting to think proactively about, what can we do to minimize losses in the case of a disaster, to protect the safety of our employees, our clients? What can we do to recover faster? In the public sector, we're seeing a lot closer work between emergency managers and planning departments locally, right? We need to think about where development is going and prevent unsafe development before it happens. And thirdly, kind of in the nonprofit sector, we're seeing a lot more collaboration with stakeholders who are nonprofit organizations, advocacy groups, and really vulnerable populations themselves. We're recognizing that disasters don't affect everyone the same way. So there are certain populations in our community, the elderly, people with special needs, ethnic and racial minorities, people who are at or near the poverty level, that have different needs when it comes to disasters and different abilities to cope. So incorporating them in the planning process is something else that we're seeing as part of that larger risk governance kind of anticipatory approach.
Well, what do you see changing when it comes to equipping the emergency managers of the future?
Well, problem solving for one, that's kind of a mainstay of emergency management, having problem solvers who can collaborate with increasingly diverse stakeholders, and of course critical thinking skills to put ideas into practice. But some of those ideas or some of those changes in the field that I discussed, we're seeing the need to develop new skills in our emergency managers of the future to meet those demands. So for instance, continuity planning requires understanding of complex systems, right? And evolving technologies, right? A lot of these digital technologies we're now using offer tremendous potential for the private sector, but they also come with risks that we need to anticipate. Cybersecurity, for instance. GIS, it is Geographic Information Systems, is what that stands for, and it's a way that we can look at where hazards are and look at where people are and how they're vulnerable and really see how humans interact with their environment. So that's becoming an increasingly valuable toolkit that involves geographic literacy, scientific literacy to master this technology. And when it comes to social vulnerability in our communities, we have a need for ethical decision making and a need for sociocultural literacy to really understand these diverse groups that we're really serving.
Well, Ronnie, is there anything else you'd like to add?
The only other thing I can think to add is creativity, right? We are increasingly facing more complex disasters. So not simply are they getting more expensive or there are more of them, but they're increasingly complex. So we really need creative problem solvers for the next generation of emergency managers if we're to really get ahead of the curve and avert some disasters in our communities.
Well, thank you for your time, Ronnie. When we come back, we'll take a look at EMDS degree programs offered at UNT and some of the exciting research happening in the department. We'll also get a student's perspective on the program.
Or that the projections would be flood next Thursday?
I can't do Thursday, but I can do Friday.
Disasters don't plan ahead. You can. Talk to your loved ones about how you're going to be ready in an emergency.
I'd like to welcome Dr. Elise Save, Assistant Professor in EMDS, to the show. Thank you for joining me, Elise.
Thank you for having me.
Elise is here to talk about EMDS education. So Elise, tell me about the degrees offered in your department.
Yes, so we have a Bachelor's of Science in Emergency Administration and Planning. We're actually celebrating the 35th anniversary of that program this year. And then we just launched in fall of 2018 a Master's of Science in Emergency Management and Disaster Science.
What fields can someone with the degrees work in?
So there's a diverse range of options, everything from business continuity planning to risk communication, all levels of government, hospitals, insurance companies, transportation centers, utility companies, and then a whole range of nonprofits. So it really is dependent on the individual's interests.
What is key when it comes to educating the emergency managers of tomorrow?
It's a really good question. One of the things our department really strives for is exposure to all types of hazards, understanding and learning all the different facets around those hazards, and then all aspects of the disaster life cycle. We think it's important that our next generation of emergency managers have a strong critical skills thinking set, can be making decisions based off of emerging data, and essentially we want to prepare them for a career, not just a job, and so that really requires strong communication, written and verbal skills.
What have you noticed are some common misconceptions students have when they first start classes in the EMDS program?
Yes. So many students come into the program and expect it to be like a Hollywood movie. So they're expecting Twister or they're expecting San Andreas, and they're only focused on that immediate response after a disaster. Even students who come to us after a first career, perhaps as a first responder, a fireman or EMS personnel, they're usually just focused on the immediate response after the disaster. And we give our students exposure to not just the response phase, but also the planning for a disaster, the mitigation of a potential hazard, as well as how do communities recover and rebuild in the long term.
Can you talk about some of the hands-on training opportunities that students get while in the program?
Yes, so our students are exposed to a lot of different opportunities. We're very fortunate to have FEMA Region 6 here in Denton, so students get to tour their Emergency Operations Center and some of the courses. So in addition to touring the regional FEMA EOC, they also have a course where they get to design and build and visit other Emergency Operations Centers in the region. We have a course that ties together public health and disasters, and they do Stop the Bleed training, for instance. We have guest speakers from an extensive network, as well as our internship program, our spring break, alternative spring break program, where students for the past couple years have been volunteering in New Orleans to assist with their long-term ongoing recovery. And we also have a study abroad program for students to get exposure to international disasters.
I understand there are a lot of success stories for students coming out of EMDS programs. Can you tell me where some of our alumni are working?
Certainly. So we have alumni in all levels of government, ranging from the city of Denton up to the Texas Department of Emergency Management. We have alumni at the various FEMA regional offices as well as the national headquarters. In the private sector, we have alumni working for Mary Kay. We have alumni working for Arnco Oil and Gas, for H2O Partners, and then for nonprofits, organizations like the Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, as well as Team Rubicon. So they're really well represented across the world, not just here locally in the region.
Oh, that's wonderful. Where can people find more information on EMDS degree programs?
Yes, they can visit our website. It's at emds.hps.unt.edu. And we also have our UNT EADP Facebook page to see current events and student activities.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Elise. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Stay tuned. When we return, we'll hear about research in the department that's making a difference, not only here at home, but around the world. And coming up later, we will welcome Kent Baxter from FEMA to talk about not only what he does, but UNT's strong connection to FEMA's Region 6.
Home fire drills give your family a plan of action. Show everyone 2 ways out of the house, pick a safe meeting spot, and get there in under 2 minutes. Then practice, so everyone knows exactly what to do. Go to ready.gov/fire drill and learn how to prepare your family.
Welcome back to the show. HPS prides itself on student-centered learning that prepares our graduates with the skills needed to be career-ready when they leave our college and join the workforce. I'd like to introduce to you Sarah Alamawi, a junior in the nation's first and most respected Bachelor of Science degree in Emergency Administration and Planning program, to give you an idea of her experience. Thank you for joining us, Sarah. First of all, tell us why you chose UNT.
Well, so I'm from the Middle East, Oman. And when I graduated, I had so many options, and one of them was emergency management. And the state I got was UNT, so that's how I ended up being here. It's been a great journey coming to UNT. I never knew about it, but when I first came here, it was great.
Oh, that's wonderful. Tell us a little bit about your student experience here in the college.
So far, my experience has been great. Despite being from the Middle East and everything, everything's been smooth. The people in the department, emergency management department, have been nothing but amazing, always helping us, especially me. And whenever I needed anything, any help with my classes, or if I didn't understand anything, they did nothing but help.
That's great to hear. What has been the most rewarding part of being in this degree program?
The best rewarding part is learning about disasters and also helping many people that have been through different kind of hazards or disasters. And this is something I would like to take with me to my country and help the people in my country as well.
Good. Tell us about some of the hands-on experiences you're getting, including a little bit about your current internship.
So I currently work with Chief Michael Penaduna, and my internship so far has been nothing but amazing. I've been to so many COG meetings, learning about grants and fundings. I've been to the disaster drill in an under tunnel in Dallas, where radiological device has been going off, and I've been an evaluator in that drill. And I've been to hazmat training. I've been to several other things as well, so it's been great.
Yeah, that sounds like a rewarding experience. Why would you recommend this degree to others?
It's a rewarding degree. We get to help lots of people, learn a lot about different disasters, being involved with different sections in the emergency department. So that's why I think it's a rewarding job, and it's not easy, but it's really rewarding.
And what career path are you hoping to pursue after you graduate?
After I graduate, I'm hoping to take all this knowledge I've learned here at UNT, and with my experience, go back home to my country, Oman, and hopefully either open an EOC there, because we don't have one, or end up working at the airport.
Oh, good.
At the city.
So how has the college helped make your career ready?
Taking all these classes that I've been taking, learning about recovery, about mitigation. The EOC class was really helpful. Also the opportunity to do our internships, and also doing the presentation on the internship will also help me a lot.
Is there anything else you'd like to add about your experience in the program?
I recommend people to take emergency management. It's a great degree. You learn a lot, especially here at UNT. The department's just so nice. Like they're so good with their students, always helping their students and doing everything they can to make us ready, prepare us for the future.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here, Sarah. We can't wait to see the difference you make in this world. Coming up, we'll hear from Kent Baxter from FEMA, and we'll learn more about the research in EMDS and how it's being used not just here at home, but around the world.
Up to 40% of businesses never recover after experiencing a major disaster. Make a plan at ready.gov/business.
Welcome back to our show. Meet Dr. Laura Sibenik, EMDS Associate Professor. A geographer by training, Laura has taught courses ranging from hazard mitigation and preparedness to images of disasters in film and media. She's here today to talk about EMDS research. Laura, you just returned from a research sabbatical. We're glad to have you back. Can you give us a broad overview of the types of research going on in EMDS?
Sure, absolutely. So our faculty in EMDS include a diverse mix of scholars with backgrounds ranging from hazards geography to disaster sociology as well as public affairs. Because we are multidisciplinary, we have the advantage of examining hazards and disasters from multiple perspectives. So this diversity lends to our faculty looking at a variety of research topics ranging from issues surrounding disaster resilience and community capacity to evacuation and return entry following disasters. We have scholars in our program looking at buyouts after flooding, issues surrounding social vulnerability, as well as patterns of short-term, long-term recovery. And currently we also have two faculty members looking at preparedness of Native American tribes after disasters. So a lot of different avenues of research that are currently underway in our department.
Oh, that sounds so fascinating. What role do students have in the research in the department?
Absolutely. So our faculty have been very active engaging students in research. During the past 2 years, our faculty have supported 3 students through UNT's undergraduate research fellowship program. And so through this program, the students are able to work very closely with a faculty mentor and develop their own research ideas and carry out a project. In addition to that, we have faculty that also advise students on their honors college theses. And more recently, we've had several students funded off of National Science Foundation research, working as graduate and undergraduate research assistants. So for example, last February, in February 2018, we had a team of 4 students, 2 undergraduate students and 2 graduate students, travel to Rockport, Texas to attend town hall meetings, meet with people at FEMA's Disaster Recovery Center, and get a sense of what the recovery is looking like in Rockport during that time. So we're very excited to engage our students in field work, teach them how to do quick response research. And with the launch of our master's program, the faculty are very enthusiastic about engaging even more students in the research enterprise.
So glad to hear that. I understand you've been selected for a National Science Foundation grant. Please tell us about the research and its funding.
Absolutely. So I'm currently working as a co-PI on a multidisciplinary, multi-institutional grant funded by the National Science Foundation through their CRISP program. So the CRISP program stands for Critical Resilient Interdependent Infrastructure Systems and Processes. And basically the idea of that program is to have teams that are comprised of both engineers and social science examining physical and human dimensions of disaster resilience. So our team is made up of scholars from both UNT and Purdue University with various backgrounds, and what we're looking at is trying to study some of the interdependencies between human systems and physical infrastructure, so things such as electricity and communication systems, and the implications that the restoration of those systems have on populations returning home as well as recovering for disasters. We're interested in understanding why some households and communities recover more quickly than others following disasters. And the study we're looking at is Hurricane Sandy, which impacted New Jersey and New York in 2012.
What are some of the things that you're seeing?
Absolutely. So throughout the first 2 years of our project, we've had the opportunity to gather a variety of data, whether it be through focus group interviews, mail-out surveys of communities in New Jersey, as well as data collection of cell phone data and Twitter data. And we're using that to analyze return and recovery patterns in New Jersey. So in May 2017, our research team had the opportunity to travel to New Jersey and conduct a series of focus group interviews where we learned about some of the factors that either acted as facilitators to community and household recovery and factors that acted as barriers to that recovery process. So like many previous disasters, the recovery process following Hurricane Sandy has not been quick, nor has it been easy for many households. On our research trip to New Jersey, we had the opportunity to visit numerous neighborhoods that were impacted by Superstorm Sandy. And what we saw during our trip was that the households were in various stages of recovery. So one thing that was striking was even after 5 years after the storm, many neighborhoods that we visited had not fully recovered, and they were exhibiting a pattern that we call checkerboard pattern of recovery, meaning some homes are returning, but then there were many homes that were still vacant and uninhabited. And so So this is one of the things we're trying to understand with our research is why is this the case?
Tell us about some of your other research and how it's been used.
I've been involved in numerous studies examining evacuation and return entry decision making at the household level. So I'm very interested in learning how factors such as risk perception, risk communication, and sociodemographics influence the decision and the timing of when to return home. Some of the things that I've found in my research is that communication of return entry strategies is often very challenging for emergency managers because you often have populations, especially during hurricanes, that are displaced over a large geographic area. And so getting the message to those individuals can be increasingly difficult when they don't have the resources they normally would have or the communication that they normally would have.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
So I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here today and to share a little bit about the research that's currently underway in our department. As professors, I truly believe we're in the business of creating and disseminating new knowledge to our students. And we have this wonderful opportunity because our students are that next generation of emergency managers. And so they really are getting information about the cutting edge research and the current problems that are prevalent in the field, and one of our biggest responsibilities is challenging them to think creatively. How do we address these problems? How do we solve these issues in order to help manage risk, reduce vulnerability, and enhance resilience in our communities?
Thank you so much for joining us today,
Thank you.
Laura. Your research is fascinating, and we can't wait to see the impact it has around the globe. Coming up, we'll be joined by Kent Baxter from FEMA, who will talk about his work as well as the strong connection between FEMA and UNT.
Attention travelers, next Tuesday a major hurricane will cause complete chaos throughout the city. Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
Disasters don't plan ahead. You can. Talk to your loved ones about how you're going to be ready in an emergency.
I'd like to welcome Kent Baxter to the show. Kent is the management analyst for the Office of the Regional Administrator here in FEMA's Region 6. Welcome, Kent. First off, tell us a little bit about what you do for FEMA.
Well, as you said, I'm a management analyst. I work for my Office of the Regional Administrator, so I do work for the administrator of the regional office. I'm involved in doing such things as data analytics, performance metrics, reviewing such mundane things as human resource type performance plans, etc., and working with our division directors and our state directors when we have mutual projects that are involved.
I understand that there are quite a few UNT alumni who work with FEMA. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, we have nearly 20 former graduates of the University of North Texas, their emergency management program, which I think is very unique. We probably have 10 to 15 scattered throughout the rest of FEMA, whether it be our FEMA headquarters or other 9 regions across the United States. And it's an interesting story. Back in 1983, our former regional administrator made contact with one of your predecessors, the dean of the School of Community Service. And I think they knew that they needed to have an academic foundation for emergency management. Yes, it was good to be practitioners, but we needed the academic base. So a degree program was started working through the state, and FEMA actually loaned 2 of its employees for about a year and a half to the University of North Texas. 2 of those gentlemen were my professors when I first went to school here.
Wow, what wonderful. What other connections does UNT have with your agency?
Well, we are always involved in working with North Texas on the Take Flight program, which will be in a few weeks, where we have students come from all different schools and come and visit us and spend a day at FEMA Region 6 learning about what we do. There's students from the business school, students from economics, students from whichever area, because there is application where we're at. FEMA also is regularly speaking in classes at the university and providing expertise as a guest lecturer time to time. We've also spoke at some events that are on campus, such as at the library.
You're part of Region 6. Can you talk a little bit about what your division is tasked with?
Okay. Well, I work for the regional administrator, so he pretty much leads the regional office. Our regional office is unique and diverse. We have our regular office here, which has about 500 people that work here in Denton, Texas. We also have an office that is dedicated to Hurricane Harvey recovery that sits in Austin, Texas. And then we still have an office in Louisiana and Baton Rouge area that deals with Louisiana disasters, but was frontiered with Hurricane Katrina and Rita. We're a very busy region. We're one of the busiest regions of the 10. We're a growing region. I think we hear about 1,000 people moving into Texas every week. There's 41 million people in the 5-state area that we deal with, 500 million square miles. From a disaster point of view, we have about 9 federal disasters declared every single year by the President of the United States. Some of those are the mundane ones that you don't hear a whole lot about, but there's severe storm, flooding associated with severe storm. However, we did have Hurricane Harvey, and that was a really large storm and really impacted the Texas coast in a severe way. Of the $25 billion disasters that have occurred in the agency's history, Region 6 has had 8 of them.
Wow.
And they've all been tropical in nature, and that means they were in Texas or Louisiana. We have a large flooding problem here in our 5-state area, especially Texas and Louisiana.
What are some of the most interesting things you've done as part of your career?
Well, when I think back on it, I think being involved in the response for Hurricane Katrina was very unique. That was really an all hands on deck situation. It was the biggest event that the agency had ever responded to, and still was. As much as we think about New Orleans, the eye of the storm actually went into Mississippi. So we had a multi-regional event that caused two states severe damage, and especially with New Orleans, the unique thing about New Orleans was because of the flood walls failing, a lot of people, usually after a hurricane, they can come back, they evacuate, but they can come back. In this case, they couldn't come back. And it caused a lot of stress on the agency. I think we came through well, but it was still one of those areas that's as big as we've gotten, and it's certainly a learning experience and something that we need to be able to say another event this size or bigger could possibly happen.
How does our college prepare students for jobs in FEMA?
Well, I think the college gives a good foundational base from an academic sense. I think that's you've got to know the knowledge and got to have an understanding of the core nature of what is emergency preparedness, what is preparedness, mitigation, response, and recovery. It's a circular thought and process. By having this degree and having this having the knowledge that you can gain from this, I think it can really take you places, and that with the job experience is very important.
What advice would you give our students who want to pursue a career with FEMA?
Well, other than taking your classwork seriously, and we all say that. I've got a couple of daughters in college, and you're here to learn, but an internship is important, and I think the program requires an internship. Second thing I would say, since it's a requirement, don't take a comfortable internship. Take one that is going to stretch you. Take one that is going to teach you something that you do not know. You want to come out of the process smarter, not just finishing. So that's what I'd really say on that.
Thank you for joining us today, Ken.
Thanks.
It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and thank you, viewers, for joining us as we explored emergency management and disaster science. Don't forget, I do have a blog, Chatting with Chumbler, that will help you stay up to date on what we're doing in the College of Health and Public Service. You can find it at hps.unt.edu/chatting-chumbler. Also, you can join me in the Chilton Hall Atrium for Coffee with Chumbler a few times each semester. It's an opportunity to enjoy a cup of coffee with me and ask me any questions you may have about the college. It's important to me that I'm available to listen and get to know all of you. For dates and times, visit our website at hps.unt.edu or follow us on Facebook and Twitter via the handle @UNTHPS. Thank you again for joining us today. I look forward to continuing to show you our successes and taking you with us on our journey as we shape the future leaders of tomorrow. I'll see you next time here on Chatting with Chumbler, where we'll bring in our experts to tackle relevant topics related to health and public service.